I've just started recording the evening as well, just to let everybody know, because we have people from all over the country and even a couple from over in New Zealand and Hong Kong that would like to join us, but due to time differences, they are able to watch the recording after the fact, which is very handy.
It is very quiet at the moment, so I thought I might as well say something. It's almost 7 o'clock. We just wait a few more minutes, and then I think we are ready to start. Ali, whenever you think you want to kick.
Funnily enough, I'm getting a couple of last minute registrations at the 11th hour. So just making sure that the link gets sent out to those people. So I'll give it a couple of minutes and then we'll kick off because we're at 7 o'clock now. So I thought that'd be good. Got a few joining now, which is wonderful. Earlier, I hung the washing out this afternoon, took the kids over to Dad's and then came back. It was nice and sunny all afternoon. And my daughter said to me, I think we need an umbrella. And I said, don't be silly. And we had 10 minutes in half an hour that I was gone. And I thought, oh, that'd be right. One day I could hang the washing out and 10 mils of rain in that time. So we've had a great hit, sink a bore, and it rains. So we've found the.
That's right.
We'll kick off in a minute because we've got quite a few joining now, which is great.
Very good. You want to explain why Karen, we can't see Karen?
Karen's laptop doesn't want to play the game tonight, but that's okay because Karen's actually going to be our QA lady. So or Q&A lady. Karen's watching any questions that come through to make sure that we have a good list of questions to be able to answer. And as we'll mention tonight, if we don't get through all the questions, we definitely will be answering them via the comments once we post the recording of tonight's seminar, both on our website and on social media. So no question will be left unanswered. And if a question does want to be asked, we've got the chat bar down the bottom. We've had a few people already test to say, yes, it works, and Karen is receiving them. So if something does pop into your head, just write it in there and we'll definitely get to it at the end of the evening. So if we want to kick off, thank you everybody for joining us this evening to learn more about equiprove and how we believe it will modernise and unite the Australian equine industry. As I mentioned just before, the seminar is being recorded and we will make it available for everyone to watch. We've got people from Hong Kong and New Zealand that actively want to participate as well. And because of time constraints, time differences, they would love to watch the recording after the fact. So we don't get, as I said, all of the questions, we will post them after the fact. So we have got a full agenda, so let's go. Straight away, who are we? I think myself, Ali, I'm the CEO of equiprove. I've owned horses and have been a part of the equine industry in Australia for over 25 years. And I am the secretary of the Irish Draft and Sport Horse Society. And we've got Uli Clatter here. And Uli needs very little introduction. Uli's been a part of the industry for over 50 years, both in Australia and Europe. He's been a rider, a coach, a breeder, and he's down at Belcam in southeast Queensland. And he's also the president of the ACE Group and the agent for the Equip show management system. And we've got Karen Copeland and Trevor Moore rounding out our team. Karen has extensive experience in governance and management, and she also is an Australian Institute Company of Directors members. And Trevor has been in management consultancy for a number of years, and he himself brings a very strong tech background as well. We do have our profiles on the equiprove website, so you're very welcome to have a look after the fact. So we have this vision that equiprove is a knowledge platform. It captures, verifies, stores and curates information. It will connect real-time data across the equine industry, and that data can be made available to whoever requires it or whoever is authorised to view it anytime, anywhere. We want Australia to be recognised as a digital leader and innovator. We want the world to look at what we're doing in the equine world down here, and we want them to follow us. Whilst we have great examples of equine technology that's already been regularly used in the industry, we can do so much better and we can support it so much better. So we have a diverse and unique industry. equiprove can support the big industry players, as well as those small grassroots 5 membership organisations and the individual participants as well. Over the last couple of years, we have held requirements workshops with the industry. We have presented to the peak bodies. We have written submissions, and we've also presented at the numerous inquiries that have been going on, particularly in the welfare side of the industry. And on the back of all of this, we have developed a prototype, some of which we will share definitely this evening. And to make that prototype and to make equiprove a reality, we needed a recognised technology partner. And so we have gone with SAP. SAP is the global leader in technology. And in the equine industry, it is a very recognisable brand because they do so much sponsoring with your big elite show jumping and eventing. We've all seen the Ingrid Klimke riding overseas with the SAP branding. So they've worked hard with us to realise the vision that we have, and we believe that they've come up with something. So Trevor is going to talk later on in detail about the technology. As I mentioned, we can't get through all of the features and the functions of the equiprove prototype tonight. So we've picked out, I think, the key scenarios that will be of interest, and I think that will resonate with a lot of the participants that are here tonight. And Uli and I'll do this together. I'll introduce the scenario, we'll run the video, but then we'll let Uli talk to the video and basically bring in his life experience and what he believes how equiprove will help a lot of the problems that we're having in the industry at the moment. So the first scenario is my profile, and we've got my horse's profile following that, and we've broken that into 2. So first, finding your horse's profile on equiprove, and then what you can do with that profile, registrations, performance management, and movement management. So if we kick off with my profile to begin with, and we'll run this video. Today, we are first going to build a profile for ourselves. We can include what roles we play in the industry: owner, rider, trainer, instructor, leasee or leaseor, breeder, merchant provider, information about ourselves, whether we're a primary or syndicate owner, information about our health condition and status, which we can share to an event organiser just in case they need to know anything critical in the event of an incident. Our insurance, whether we have insurance provided to us by a club or an organisation, or whether we have purchased private insurance for our businesses we run. Today, we're
okay.
got another one. Insurance is in place, and the insurance provider can easily alert us that it may be time to renew. This can also be shared to anyone who requires to know that insurance is in place. We can store our memberships of clubs or societies or organisations against our profile. We will be able to see our membership numbers, financial status, and when these are due for renewal. If these clubs, societies or organisations are participating with equiprove, They will be able to keep a good record of their members on their end and also be able to send notifications to their members. There is no need for lost email because we can now interact on the equiprove network. We will have a look at this in further detail later on. The discipline groups we are a part of can also be stored on our profiles. For the big picture, this will give industry insight as to how many people are a part of each discipline, and not just the Olympic disciplines. We can store information about our cars, trucks, horse floats, goosenecks, so that when it comes time to using these, they will be able to be shared for security purposes. And again, we will have a look at this in more detail later on. We can also store information about our qualifications and accreditations, higher learning, and also our achievements, both on our horses and on other owners' horses. So if we click save, we'll head back to the homepage. Uli, if you want to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Ali. That's, I mean, how often have we gone and we filled out forms if we want to enter a horse, if we want to join a club, if we want to write our name down, our details, etc. pp. Some organizations want to know more than others. Here with this system, you fill in your detail once and that's it. After, if you want then to send that information to the entry system which asks for your information, you just send the information they require over. You have all your information in one spot. You have your memberships in one spot. You know your insurance, where it's insured for. I mean, how complicated is it if you want to find all these things, right? And this is a chance just to really tidy it up, to have it all in one spot, and to build your profile, not only for that purpose, but also if somebody wants to know about you, right? You build your CV on there, right? Basically, which you can share with people you want to share it with. That's sort of basically what it can do. You do it once and that's there forever. You can keep building on it, right? And I think it's a great idea. If you have anything more to add, Avi, go for it.
No, I think you nailed it, Ollie. We'll flick next to find your horse. So this is first finding your horse's profile on equiprove. And given that the majority of horses are on some form of database throughout the country, there's a strong chance your horse will already be there available for you to find and then take ownership of it. So we'll have a look at that now. Let's have a look at how we can find our horse. In this instance, the account holder has searched their horse's registered name or racing name on the participating database or databases that it may be on, and that information has been pushed to them. In the instance that you own multiple horses, you would search your name that's attached to the registration of the horse. You should then see a list of horses populate on the screen. If one of your horses that you own isn't registered in your name, we'll have a look at how we can actually finalise that and put that horse's registration into your name using the equiprove network. So we're going to select the horse shown and attach the horse to our account. If you are the owner of the horse, but you have never officially transferred the horse into your name via whatever society or association or organisation it's registered with, this will be your chance to do this seamlessly. You'll be asked to follow the instructions of that organisation, but this can all now be done via the network. Again, you'll be asked to provide proof that you do own that horse. So we are the owner of this horse, and we're going to select it from the current ownership and click save. That horse is now attached to our equiprove profile. Let's have a look at, in the event that your horse is registered but not on the system, equiprove can facilitate a request for the information about your horse to be sent from the non-participating organisation so that you have all of the information correctly stored on your horse's profile. In time, we see an uptake of participating organisations due to convenience and membership demand. So now we have a registered horse stored against our equiprove account, and they now have their own equiprove profile. So let's have a look at that. So if you want to talk a bit about that quickly, Uli.
Yes, that is, I get, I don't know how many phone calls or text messages per week to say, I have a horse here and apparently you bred it, or you have advanced through your hands, or it is by one of your stallions or mares. And it sometimes I don't have the time to help them because it would take lots of research through papers. And with this system, I can say, okay, go to equiprove. If you put in as much information as you have about the horse and see if you can find it. If you can't find it, it's not in the system, but you can start building then your own profile of that horse. You put in the information you have and you keep building it, right? And same again, this sharing of information. If the horse is on there already and it is registered, let's say with the age group, it's fine. You will have the full pedigree. You will have the breeder's name. You have the birth date. You have the microchip number. You have the DNA. You have the lot in one. Right? You don't have to try to find papers and say, shit, I have put it in a safe place. I have done it plenty enough, and it's a safe place I can't find anymore. So and then it starts, and then you have to just to do the runaround. Now with this, it will help it to find horses and to keep horses in one good safe place.
Yeah, and it's probably worth adding here as well. If the horse is on multiple databases, whether it's registered in numerous organizations or even been duplicated because it's on a vet system or it's at Pony Club, the system, the platform is that advanced, the technology is that advanced that it will actually recognize all of those different duplications and amalgamate them into one horse. Because at the end of the day, one horse is one horse, so it should have one profile. And it is where this distributed data comes in that we talk to later on, that all starts to make sense. But I'll now flick into, now that
hang on, that's also what I just sort of, which I forgot also, when you need to fill in some paperwork, or when you have to send your horse's information to a nomination system, right? You just click the information which has to go across, and that's it. You don't have to actually type it in anymore, right? So it will make it much easier, much more precise and much more accurate, because sort of typing mistakes, being in a hurry, I couldn't be bothered, right? And all that sort of stuff. You have all the information which goes, let's say, from your profile or from the database where the horse was registered. It goes to your profile. From your profile, it can go to Pony Club or Equestrian Australia or Stock Horse or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. All right, we'll flick over to now. We're going to actually have a look at what's in that horse's profile and where we can use those pieces of information. So let's have a look at a horse's profile. So here we've got a list of horses that are linked to a person's equiprove account. They may not, sorry, it's just having little necessarily own all of them, but they do have some form of responsibility to them. We can see that each of them is linked to a database. Could be breed organisation, peak body, could be a simple grassroots local club that collects basic information about that horse. All of that data is invaluable when we can use it correctly. So let's have a look at the top horse, and we're now in his profile. So we've got basic information that's been pulled from that database, and in this instance, this is a thoroughbred, this is a true. ex-racehorse from the Australian Stud Book. We've got information about him. We've got the fact that he is DNA typed, the date that he was registered, that he just has the one registry. If we had multiple registries against a horse, we could see them all linked here, one after the other. We've got a contact person and the horse's location. This isn't necessarily the horse's owner's information. It could be the person that is currently responsible for that horse. So great example is a rider that's campaigning the horse for an owner. The rider's information would be included here, and this will be recorded on the horse's timeline. So let's go and have a look at the horse's timeline.
I'll just jump across.
So let's have a look at
to the timeline.
timeline tab. We can see all the information that has been collected about this horse over its lifetime, and it can be accessed here. It may not be able to be viewed by a current owner, but there is information available for anyone to request to view from the person who owns the data. For whatever reason, they need to see it. So there could be a record here from an owner from 2 owners ago that you could put a request in for them to release that data to you as the current owner. Some of the first records we would see on this timeline would be linked with the sire and dam's equiprove profiles. For instance, the service that was purchased and any contracts that were in place when it came to the conditions of the service. Any vet or third-party checks of the mare during her pregnancy. For instance, a farrier visiting could be recorded. The birth of the horse that the timeline belongs to, and then the eventual registering of this particular horse as a foal. How this occurs is by records. So if we click on the documentation tab, documents, videos, photos, any piece of data that can be uploaded to the horse's profile becomes a record that will then be seen on that timeline. It can be done manually by the owner. So here we've got adding a document, a vet report that was sent to us via a vet, we can upload to the horse's profile, but also any third party profiles can also send data to that horse. So for instance, results from an event can be recorded against the horse's profile, and that data is coming from that scoring system. We are going to have a look at that a little bit later on. What we'll be able to do when it comes to keeping strong records about our horses that can then be shared to whoever requires to view it will absolutely change this industry for the better.
If you want to talk
Timeline tab.
to that, Uli.
When I turn my mute off, yes, that is what we call provenance of the horse. We can see what has happened to that horse in his lifetime, like you said, from father, mother, the cross, then the foal-born sex, etc. The beauty of this is that you can keep all the information which relates to that horse in one spot. If you take photos, you upload it. If you take training videos, you put it there. And you can share this information. Let's say if you want to send that horse to somebody who should sell it on your behalf, you send that information, that's the cross, to the agent. You can share this information with whoever you want, and to the extent what you want. You can say, okay, I share this, but I don't share that. Right? It's depending what it is and if it's relevant for to the person or not. So I think this keeping all the records, including the performances which you come later to, and have that linked to the horse and have it in one spot, it makes it much easier than to go to your phone and sit, flick back. I had a video somewhere, but I don't know, where was it? When did I take it? Right now, you have it on the equiprove. You go to the horse, and you have everything there. The pictures also might be interesting for people who do photographs. They can send, if you purchase some pictures, it can be sent straight to the horse's profile, and same with videos and so forth. So it is thus again a really big tidy up of the records and the possibility to make use of these records. If you like to add anything more, yeah.
I just wanted to add as well, in a section that I mentioned where the horse's registration would sit on their profile, I should have touched on the fact that a lot of horses, particularly your pony breeds and your ex-race horses that become, enter their second career, they change their name. And whether it's because a prefix has been taken from one person, so from one organization, so you can't duplicate it, you've got to alter the name of your horse slightly. And then in some regards, that becomes two horses for a lot of event organizers. They have to confirm if that information's there. So realistically, you would have your horse's profile, its first name given, but then any other name that it has received over its lifetime, whether it's a paddock name, its racing name to its new discipline name, or that variation of prefixes. So all of that's recorded. All of the registration numbers are next to them, and it's still the same horse on the profile, and it's just being shared. That information just is shared to certain clubs or shows or wherever that information has to go. So I think that's something else that we should have included in the video, but we have now. So we'll go next to looking at registering a horse through equiprove to the organisations. So I'll just quickly click here. What we're also going to do is all been registered by equiprove with a breed society, and how easy it is to now record and store the information about that foal, even before it's born. If we click on the equine registration tab again, we can see information that is pulled from the databases of two separate databases. Sorry. What we're also going to have a look at is a foal been registered by equiprove with a breed society, and how Draft Society, and the other one being the Australian Stud Book, and the fact that there's DNA on record. And all of this information can be stored, again, as we said, before the foal's born, basically eliminating cover certificates, because the information has been pushed by the stallion owner and been received by the mare owner. The pooled data that's coming from the sire and dam's equiprove account, again, is stored onto the foal's account, even before the foal is born. So we can see the breed, we can see the breed society that it may be eligible to be registered with. Information about any peak bodies that potentially could eventually see this information can be stored against the horse's equiprove as well. Whatever vet or third party clinic that is involved with the insemination or the progress of pregnancy and ultimately birth of the foal, again, can be recorded. Their reporting can be recorded against the horse's equiprove. As we mentioned before, photos, markings, etc., a full registration. And again, what we're doing is eliminating duplications, manual processes for the breed societies when they're alerted to a live foal. All of this can be done in the meantime before the foal's even born, so that when the foal is birthside, the information just has to be finished by the person, the third party that's attending, and that's verified, stored on equiprove and sent to whichever breed society or organisation requires it to finalise registration. So if we save that one, we're back at the home page. The pooled data.
Yeah, I mean, that you can't believe how much work that would save for people who are doing horse registrations. At the moment, we get information, let's say if it's a thoroughbred mare, we have to type it in. We can go to the Australian stud book and actually manually type that in. In the future, that information would be just being pushed across. Then if that mare goes, if I send it to a stallion and it's to be covered, I, as the mare owner, would say on the equiprove profile, I have sent it to this stallion to be covered. As a stallion owner, he would verify it. Okay, mare has arrived. She will be covered then and then, or she will be inseminated by a vet. That will be recorded against it. So the mare owner and the stallion owner as both agree that this has happened. And that will replace the old, they call it service slip, which are being filled out somewhere manually, right? And I would think the thoroughbred industry is doing it already for ages. And but we have to catch up, and through the equiprove system, we make this possible. This service is open to smaller or larger breed societies, and that will help them to have more accurate information and also to make the registration process much faster by the verification of the mating. You can already prepare obviously the birth certificates information as when the service was happened, and the father's breeding and the mother's breeding. When the foal is born, he just has to put in the color and the sex and say when it was born, and it is ready to have the passport printed. Right? So this will make things much easier, and that is sort of important information too, which we want to capture and share with people who need it.
I think it's worth noting too, it's that insight as to we've got a better idea of the number of horses been covered, the number of pregnancies been confirmed, and then births, and then ultimately how many horses are eligible for registration each year, because it's real-time data. We're not waiting until the end of the season to get a piece of paper posted or scanned to us to notify us. And as I know, and as a lot of registrars know, stallion owners just don't get around to alerting the organisations as to how many mares their stallions have covered. And so it is sometimes a guessing game, to the point where I have 5-6-year-old horses that come forward for registration and we're still chasing covering certificates for them. So, and it's not an uncommon story. I hear it from a lot. So I think this whole notion of real-time data is where it's going to just seamlessly better what we're already doing with our processes for each organisation. So from there, if we want to jump into what we can do with that data in the way of entering a show, but then also the flip of recording the results, not just to the horse, but to the person who is the owner and rider of the horse. So if we work through that now, we're going to have a look at performance management now. This will give event organisers the opportunity to use participating entry systems that are networking with equiprove, allowing all verified data about the horse and the competitor to be transmitted across to the organiser via the entry system. So like we mentioned before, event organisers will not have to go chasing competitors or exhibitors for their current memberships or horse registrations or levels of achievements. All of this information has been sent across from equiprove to the event entry system, and from there it can be sent to the organizer to work out draws and to make sure everything is done seamlessly. So basically a competitor cannot enter the show if they do not have the information included in their equiprove account. So imagine a world where a quick, efficient finalising of draws can actually be achieved. So what we're going to have a look at here is the results list of one of the horses that we were playing with before. So an off-the-track thoroughbred that now has become an eventer. So results from all of the participating scoring systems can then be sent back to the horse's equiprove profile, but also to the rider's profile, because the rider isn't necessarily the owner of the horse. And so what we're basically doing is building a CV for both the rider and the horse, a list of achievements and what they've done. So your professional trainers are able to showcase their achievements and results to prospective clients, proving their value and capability to train their horse. We can also see better record keeping across multiple scoring systems that gather results for performance awards. So you imagine with the Thoroughbred Performance Awards, an off-the-track thoroughbred leaves racing, comes into eventing, all of the results that it has achieved all over the country throughout the year is stored on its equiprove against all of the other off-the-track thoroughbreds, and at the end of the year, performance awards are easily able to be identified as who's the leaders, particularly what bloodlines they're coming from, what areas of the country, what training stables, etc. So again, that whole insights and big data can start to be reported against the equiprove profile. So we can see better record keeping, and all eligible horses for certain awards are notified and they can be participants, and their results are recorded against their equiprove. Data can be pushed back to the peak bodies, and organisations that offer any breed or performance results, they can all push out their awards. Ideally, we would see an uptake of these because it's now easy to keep a record of what is required for participation. We also understand that the grassroots clubs may not use entry systems to hold shows. This doesn't mean that the record of the show and the result of the participants can't be recorded. Simply take a photo and store it with your equiprove account. So what we'll quickly have a look at here is we've got the Toowoomba Jump Club one-day event, and we've got the result here that the owner has achieved. And if we click back, what we're also going to do is pull information from a most recent event. And as we mentioned, these are being drawn in from the participating scoring system. So we can either manually pull it or they'll automatically allot to the horse's equiprove record. So if we head back to our performance history and back to our horse management page, we're going to have a look.
Yeah, Ali, this the equestrian sport or horse riding sport, the rider needs the horse and the horse needs the rider, right? It's a combination, and it was always my idea that to bring breeding and sport together for the benefit of the riders and the breeders, right? Now we can't do that if we don't have data. We need data, how they perform and where they perform, and in what disciplines and so forth. We have some data records, but they are usually stored just against obviously the discipline. If it's a dressage horse, you have to go to the equestrian side of dressage, or jumping, you go to jumping, or if it's a stock horse and is doing camp drafting, you go to that side. Now, this will change and should change, in my opinion, because the record should be recorded against the horse and not against the discipline. Right? And this with this system, it gives really valuable information to the breeders. They can say, okay, certain bloodlines perform better in this discipline, or certain bloodlines are more suited in the lower grades or higher grades. It gives information. When I came out from Germany in 1984, we had already that information. At that time, through books, so you had to flick through books. Now it's all pretty much on the internet. So, and I mean, we don't even have a book, and we don't have all the information in one spot. And this is one of my, what I have been trying to do since I got to Australia, to try to combine sport and breeding. And with this equiprove as a platform, we can achieve that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Uli. We definitely see there's ripe opportunity for the verified data that the breed organisations have that can support we can support sending it to the via the event management systems to the peak bodies that can be then sent to the international peak bodies. That should be the way that it's done, but unfortunately it's not at the moment, and hopefully equiprove will be able to fix that fall down that we've got currently. We'll quickly go through moving your horse. It's not necessarily from property to property in that, you know, just a paddock to paddock. It could be property to an event, and that's what we've actually used here. But you can imagine where you could use this for it. So I'll just start this one up. In the times we're living in now with COVID, movements have never been more recorded than ever, basically. So we go into restaurants and we either use a QR scan code and record our names, or we write them down. In the horse industry, we've been doing this for a number of years, and we were jokingly saying it's a horse and human health declaration now that we have to enter. What equiprove can actually do is take away the manual process of that. So what we're going to have a look at is our movements management. In this instance, we've got the owner has actually sent her horse to a professional rider, and there's a number of horses that have been pushed to the rider as well. So this rider is taking the top 2 horses to the show today. So we've got the rider's information already stored. We've got now the horse's information. We've got the owners of the horse's information, all pulled from separate equiprove accounts to this movement management record. So if we click on next, all this information is stored at the top. We pop in where we're coming from, where we're going to, estimated time of departure, which with location services will give us the ETA, the PIC number that we've come from if it's applicable, the event that's actually having the event organizer that is holding the event. And this information can actually be sent to the event organizer. So you can imagine that for safety measures, if the organizer is notified of a movement and the participants never arrive, they're able to follow up to check if they're okay. When a participant arrives on site, their location services automatically alerts who's required to know that they are there. They can input how many participants are in the actual vehicle. They can record the vehicle itself. The data entry is endless as to what the event organizer needs to be able to enter this show. So health declarations can be sent along with the movements, allowing the competitor to basically jump the queue when they arrive at the competition gates. The organisers know who they are, who's in the float, and everyone's healthy and safe and can proceed. You want to talk to that one quickly, Uli?
Yes, let's say at the moment, how it is at the moment, especially in Queensland, we have to fill out a horse health declaration to say that the horse is healthy and where it came from and where it has to go to, and also the return where it goes after the event or if you shift it. as far as I know, all states really have legislation to say to keep a record of horse movements. Some states enforce it more than others. But what if we do it through the internet, we can store this information. At the moment, how we do it, the horse health declaration is being filled out by hand. It's written on a piece of paper, and you hand it into the event organizer and goes in a drawer. So that is a complete waste of time unless you have and somewhere outbreak, and then you have to go through all the paperwork and try to decipher the handwriting, right? Especially if it's mine. Now we have this information of the traveling, so we could theoretically work out which is the most traveled horse in Australia. We could work out how many kilometers have been spent on the route for all the competitors to get to that show. Right? This is very information for fuel companies, for sponsors, and so forth. Right? So let's use the data to make use out of it, right? To I think that somewhere for the betterment of the sport and to have more information at hand.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that whole biosecurity angle has to mean something for the DPI in every state to know how many horses and who they are and where they are located. And then in the event of a biosecurity outbreak or an emergency, to be able to send those people a notification via equiprove. Your phone pings, stop, turn around, go back to the property that you're at, or continue to where you're going, but stop. We all went through horse flu. We all know the notifications that, on the big billboard saying turn around and go home. This is instant, real time that this can happen. We'll end those now, and I want to introduce Trevor and let me now hand over to Trevor, and he's going to talk about our technology and also our service and pricing model and the capital raising. So over to you, Trevor.
Okay, thanks, Ali. Good evening, everybody. It's getting late, so I will not take too long, I hope. But as Ali said, there are those three things that we need to cover. Something about the technology, something about how much is this going to cost you, and and thirdly, where are we going to get the money from to build it? So if I just start with the technology, technology is what makes this all work, and we need technology which is robust, that's tried and tested. You can probably tell by looking at me that I've been around for an awfully long time, and if there's one thing that's going to go wrong, it's a software project. So we need to know that this is we're using tried and tested technology, and that's why we partnered with SAP, and we're using a product of theirs, or a platform of theirs, called the Intelligent Asset Management System. We know that works, and equiprove will be built on that platform. Ali mentioned that we're a knowledge management organization. Knowledge management depends upon data. If you don't have any data, you can't derive any knowledge. So data is important because somebody needs to own it. You will own your data. The first principle that equiprove is built upon is that the user owns their data. We don't. Now, that's very different from nearly every system that you'll have interacted with in the past, in particular government systems, where you give them the data, you then have very little control over what gets done with it. You certainly can't manipulate it at will. You certainly can't withdraw that data once you've given it to the government, or indeed most other large organizations. So first principle is you'll own the data. The second principle is that we will license from you the use of some of that data. So clearly we need to know you're there. So if we can't use any of the data at all, it's not particularly useful. But the control over what data is licensed and to whom rests with you. Some of it, as I say, equiprove will need to use a very, very small piece, but then with the rest of it, you can decide which of that is public and which of that is private, who you would share it with and when, and you can change that at will. So the principle of licensing data usage is particularly important. And in doing that, the privacy, your privacy and the security of your data, of course, are absolutely paramount. The third data principle is that we'll store the data where it's most convenient. Now, for the individual subscriber, and I'll talk about subscribers in just a moment, for the individual subscriber, that almost certainly means that you'll store your data on the equiprove system. For an organization, however, it is possible that because our approach to building the system is not centralized, it's distributed, it's decentralized, it may be possible for organizations to keep their data on their own servers, provided we can establish the right sort of interface between those servers and our own. There may well be some technical problems with doing that, but in principle, those technical problems are solvable, and we would look to work out with very large organizations whether and how that was going to be a practical way forward. So the third principle is that storage should be where it's most convenient. The final principle around data is around design. Everything's in the cloud these days, so you'd be very surprised if I didn't tell you that there's an equiprove cloud. That cloud is physically present on a number of servers that will be managed by SAP. SAP is a large European company. It knows and understands how to store data in a way which is secure and reliable. So we have no concern about that. But the data will be stored. It will be duplicated, at least 2 copies, probably more. It won't be possible for data to be lost. SAP's capabilities in terms of data protection are second to none. So we have complete confidence in that. So overall, the system is designed for 4 important things. One is responsiveness. When you ask the system to do something, you need it to do it, and you need it to do it reasonably quickly. And our attention spans these days are not particularly long. The system needs to be quick. It needs to be reliable. You need to know that if you put stuff in, you can get it out, and you need to know that if you ask the system to do something, the system will do it, and you need to know how the system is progressing as it goes. Thirdly, you need to know that your data is secure. You need to have the control over the data to make sure that you put the protections on it that you wish, and that we affect those protections in the way that you would wish us to affect them. And finally, privacy. Your own privacy is really important. We need to make sure that, and you need to know that you're protected. So we're building a system which is decentralized, which is essentially driven by the users. We want it. We've always set out to design something which is up to date, which is leading edge but not bleeding edge. We need the technology to be reliable, and we need it to be robust, and it will be. So that's all I want to say on the technology. The next piece briefly is how will it work for you? And this is about how much is it going to cost. And there are 2 parts to this. So there'll be subscriptions to the service, and there'll be transactions. Basically, a subscription is free. I'll modify that by saying that there are in fact 3 levels of subscriptions, and the entry level subscription is free, which allows you to do certain things and to store data, as much data as you want. The other 2 levels, which we call performance and professional, do attract a charge. And I'll come back to why that is in a moment. There are then a number of transactions. For example, if you want to buy a horse or sell a horse, the movement record that Ali and Uli talked about, those are all transactions, and most of those incur a charge when you use them. So if you're an entry-level subscriber and you're not paying a subscription, there will be some transactions that you can do for nothing, but most transactions you would pay for. But we would expect that most of those entry-level subscribers wouldn't do those transactions very often. For the higher level subscribers, the professional and performance, they would have included in that membership, that subscription, a number of transactions, and those transactions would be included within that membership. If you're an organization, you can subscribe to equiprove as a club or as an organization, and we will charge a flat fee per member. It doesn't matter how many horses there are, but we've decided that because membership organizations work on members, that the best way to charge is by member. Your members then would become would have a club subscription automatically as part of that organization's membership, and that would give discounted transactions to those members. They might, of course, decide to join separately, and there might be some benefit in doing that. That would be entirely up to them. We will add transactions as we grow, so we will improve and extend the functionality of the system as we understand what our users want. And in order to do that, we will establish an equiprove user forum, which will be a group that enables us to collect input and views about what things people would find most useful, and what things we need to change in the system, and what things we need to add. So very briefly, that is that's how we will generate revenue, and how much it will cost you. Now, none of this, of course, will happen without us being able to pay for the system to be built. So we need to raise capital to build the system and to market it, to ensure that we get the take up that we need. We need $3 million. So how are we going to find this? Then we are already underway with this activity. Now, there are three ways. The first is that we'll be presenting something that's called a pitch deck to venture capitalists and angel investors. And these are people who may be prepared to invest in exchange for a stake in a company. And so we are set up as a company. We have a share structure, and we would expect any major investor to take a stake in the company through the share structure. The second way we would hope to raise capital is through individual investors, and these come in two flavors, large and small. Our business model assumes that for a large investor, and we haven't actually yet decided quite what large means, and there may be different levels, but for a large investor, we will pay a return on that investment. We're currently taking advice on how that would work. So you'd give us some money, and we'd pay you effectively interest on, if you like, which would be better than the current bank rate, I can tell you. Small investors, and those would be at some level, we would decide that a small investor was somebody who invested this amount of money. We would provide a life subscription to and an ongoing discount on the transactions that they used. And of course, all investors would feel good about doing something that was going to improve the equine industry and the experience of owning and riding a horse. So I've scampered through those things very quickly, because in a sense, I suppose that's the nuts and bolts, and possibly not quite as interesting, but they're nonetheless very important. So I'll hand you back to Ali. Thank you.
You have to turn your mic off, mute off.
Yeah, I've just put my mute on. You'll have to turn yours on. So everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we had a number of questions. some of which obviously have been answered along the way, but nevertheless, and some are also just more comments, so I won't go into them. But the first one was, and I think this is one for Ali and Trevor, okay? And it goes, how do breed associations feel about this database? The issue of human error and typos and the impact that that might have on legal requirements. Ali, I think you go first.
Do you want to turn your thing on?
Oh, yes.
Well, first and foremost, we're not a database. I think that needs to be said. We do offer a service to store data, but at the end of the day, equiprove is a platform that databases can network on. So it's your data. It can be shared to whoever you want it to be shared to, and it can be accessed to by whoever you want it to be accessed by. The idea is we're providing something that will make your data more valuable, your data work better for your members, and make it easier for them to be able to push and pull information to wherever they have to. I think, Trevor, if you want to extend on that from a tech side of it.
So a perennial problem with all systems is data accuracy. At the end of the day, you can't safeguard against somebody who's determined to put the wrong data in. But what you can do is to put cross-checking in place to raise the possibility that data may be accurate and feed that back either to a user or an organization if it looks like the data is inconsistent. So we'd certainly expect to have those sorts of checks and balances in place.
Okay, so the next one, and it follows really quite closely from that one. And again, it's the issue and management of multiple horse names to different breed organizations and organizations generally. So again, how are we going to manage a horse that might have 10 different names associated to X number of organizations? And again, does that have any legal implications? And I think that might be one again for Ali, and maybe Uli might want to make a comment on that too.
Yeah, I think I touched lightly on it earlier on when we were going through the horse profile. So a horse is one horse and a horse's profile is one profile. If it has 600 names, all 600 names from 600 data sources can be sitting on that horse's profile. From a legal aspect, it really comes down to whatever database, whatever organization approved that name to be available and to be used. That's their, that's their legal obligation to make sure that's in place. We simply just allow all of those names and registrations to sit on one profile because, as I said, a horse is one horse and it has one profile. Trevor, you did and it goes to the confidence of it that if it's verified data coming from a verified source, so a breed organization, the confidence is very high. If it's just me deciding, oh, that horse is called Bob, that confidence is low because I don't know if that's 100% truth, but it's still a data source. We won't go into it tonight, but we will comment because it's a really good question because it comes back to the unique identity of that horse and that profile. And Trevor's got a really good, I think, explanation about that. And so what we'll do is we'll record this question again and get Trevor to talk to that unique identification and the long number that will actually be a part of the horse's profile. Yeah, so hang on a sec.
I might just say, Ali, from a technical point of view, it doesn't matter how this is not a problem from a technical point of view. So there's only one of me. I know I'm a single human. My son calls me Dad, my granddaughter calls me Pops, and my wife calls me Trevor. It's only me. So from a data storage point of view, not a problem. But as Alice pointed out, the issues may arise because of the organizations that have authorized those names.
Okay, the next one's also a really curious one. what about hidden information? So how can the system help us understand perhaps what we're not seeing? So gaps in data and the implication of that. Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to that timeline. The horse could be owned by 3 or 4 different people in its lifetime, and pieces of data are collected and stored against that horse's timeline, and it's time and date stamped because it is technology that's doing it. And so you'll clearly see in that timeline, you may not be able to access every piece of information, but you'll see that there could be a gap. So a great example is a young girl that's show jumping for a year. There's a heap of results, there's photos, there's video, everything looks all wonderful. Then there's a gap, and the gap is because she's at uni and suddenly that horse is sitting in the paddock. So someone can actively say, okay, well, I see a gap, what happened? And it's then that the person is able to talk to, well, it sat in the paddock. And I have proof of that because I have occasionally put up photos to show proof of life of this horse. Again, we're not mandating people to use equiprove. It comes back to this voluntary, but ultimately, if more, it becomes that normalization that if you can show or demonstrate that you are regularly showing that the horse is okay and that it's regularly seeing somebody, the farrier or the vet or whoever, and it's been recorded, and you're putting pretty pictures up of your ex-racehorse on social media and saying, I love that horse because mine goes up all the time. You're regularly demonstrating pieces of data getting put in. So I think it really comes back to that timeline and seeing that if there's gaps, then there's questions that can be asked. Why are there gaps?
Okay, so I've got a couple here. We've probably got 10 more minutes if people can just bear with us. There's one here that says, how is third-party data or owner's data verified? So again, that's either yourself, Ali, or Trevor.
So if we're if we're making an arrangement with a third party to utilize or share their data, we would have an agreement with them, and that agreement would cover the standards that we would expect around the quality and availability of that data. So you would never just take data on face value. There would always be some kind of underpinning to that.
Okay, and I think this one is really topical. Where would you find info as to where an off-the-track thoroughbred has been retired for a new career? So, Ali, I think this is one for you, and it is around that movement from the racing life to the off-the-track life, and what that actually means and how we track it.
So we know there's a massive fundamental flaw when racehorses finish racing and there's no pathway. It basically is horses go into training if they are rideable and they're pretty and they potentially could become an eventer or a show jumper or wherever, but that's not the case for every single horse. So we've spoken with Racing Australia, we've spoken with Racing Queensland, with Racing Victoria. We've shown them how we believe that we have an opportunity to use this platform to help take over the visibility of ex-racehorses when they finish racing, when they finish breeding in the racing stables and they come over. We've spoken with welfare therapy groups that utilise ex-racehorses that aren't suitable for training, but they are suitable to work with ex-army, with children that have got autism or people that have got anxiety issues. It works, and the NDIS have proven that it works. So we see an opportunity that data can be seamlessly transferred from the racing database. They have all of the form information, they have the dates that they've finished. It's up to racing to pull their game together to make sure that horses are retired. But if they don't, what we see an opportunity is suddenly, if a horse is still active on the racing database, but it's now doing dressage or it's doing something on equiprove, it's our opportunity to say to the racing industry, well, hang on a minute, the non-racing sector is now actually seeing a visible traceability of these ex-race horses because they're doing stuff. There's a photo taken of them here, or there's a competition, a small competition they've entered, and the horse has been actively used. So the more and more, again, this normalization of using data and using technology to be able to keep horses as visible as possible, it actually demonstrates to the Racing Australia, to each state, that there is an opportunity for us to seamlessly take their data, that when they've finished the horse, we don't care about what's happened during, or how much money they've made or anything like that. We just want to have that seamless lap over into, now we have the horse here and we can continue from the day it's finished racing to the day it dies as a 30-plus-year-old horse in the paddock. So we've done it again and again, and we hope it gets through to them eventually, because they haven't solved it yet, and we think we can.
Okay, Uli, one for you so you don't feel left out. This is a biosecurity question. So post-EI, African horse sickness and equine herpes, this needs, so the system will need to address and support the export of horses globally. How would you see that happening?
Yeah, that's why we have the provision for the health record of the horse. So if the horse has to be tested for certain diseases prior to export, or for whatever reason, that goes on the horse's profile. Sometimes for export, they have to know too where the horse has been in the last 6 months, so that you can find from the profile. So you have it all in one spot. And in time, probably I don't know if the Australian or international authorities want to accept this like that, but and still needs a paper backup or not. But technically, it is, you see all the information on the horse's health profile. The owner would give you the access to certain information you require for export, or for the agent who is doing it, right? And it is all there, and it can be backed up by obviously by paper if required, right? Because most of these tests are being done by vets. They do the identification of the horse, so they can do the identification of the horse much easier because they have the horse's picture, the profile, they have the microchip number, the name, and so just again, it makes things much easier and faster.
And Uli, while you're on a roll, you can answer the question about what event entry systems does equiprove work with, e.g. does it work with Nominate, for example?
Yes, it will work with all entry system who wants to be part of it, right? So I, as a representative from the equip show management system, for sure will join straight up. We had some initial talks with some other some organizations who do entry systems and recording systems. So we make it open to everybody, right? So we will hope that also Nominate can see the benefit of equiprove and will join it.
Okay, there's really two questions left. One is for you, Trevor, and the other one is quite a long one. I'll read it out, but it may well be that we need to just chunk it down and answer it perhaps later. But the one for you, Trevor, is do you have any figures for investors?
Yes, but I'd rather deal with those with individual investors. I know that's a cop-out, but we do have a business model.
It's a reality. We're not going to actually disclose everything. We would like to speak to people individually or prepare ourselves for those events.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last one. And I'm just going to read it out because, as I said, it's a bit chunky. So what is the likelihood the chain of ownership will be broken by people not wanting to pay the transaction amount? E.g., you buy a horse, can trace its breeder, but not the two owners between them and the person you bought it from. How would someone know that the horse has had several owners rather than just the two who paid the transaction fee? So it sort of goes to that timeline, Ali. Do you want to take it? Yep.
Yeah, this comes back to, so the timeline will forever be there. The horse's profile will forever be there. The person who owns that horse may not necessarily be using equiprove, but they could be entering a show, or they could be dealing with a vet. Their horse could be on a database somewhere. If that database is networking, and the ideal is the more databases networking, the more visible a horse is. But the more and more pieces of data about a horse that is automatically pulled in and attached to that horse's timeline, the more visibility it has. So as I said, you as an owner may decide, oh, equiprove's not for me. I know my horse, you know, I can see the show results on the entry system or up on Facebook or wherever. That's fine. But inadvertently, the show results are getting pulled to the horse's profile automatically because we're working with the entry systems. They own that data. The individual owner doesn't own the data. So it's the database, the databases we're networking with, the data will go there. So in time, what we'll see is, even if the person that owns the horse in the middle chunk isn't manually adding stuff to equiprove, they will still see some information. A new person will come on and say, oh, yep, I can see there is visibility there. Something did happen with this horse. And it really comes back to, again, this normalization that if you as a person decide to purchase a horse that either the person isn't using equiprove when you go to buy it, and they can't hand on heart show as much information as possible, but there is another horse available that can do it, that can demonstrate where we've actively shown, you know, information about the horse. It's been pulled automatically from all different sources. I've manually updated stuff. Then my confidence in that horse versus the confidence in the horse that's just getting pulled information from sources but not updated regularly, of course I'm going to pick the other horse. You know, that's just common sense. It's like buying a car. You're going to pick the car that's got the full history over the car that doesn't. So again, it's this progressive normalization of, if we've got a knowledge platform in place, we'll use it to the point where we start to see the people, and I'm going to call them the bad people of the industry, the dodgy horse dealers, the people that are just in it to make a quick buck to screw someone else over. Their careers and their jobs will actually become they'll disappear, because it's just this normalization of, we use equiprove to demonstrate that we're doing right by the industry, that we're doing right by our horses, and we happily will show, you know, we're not legislating anything at the moment. We're not demanding that people use it, but it's that voluntary, I love my horse, I want to do the right thing by it.
Okay, I do think that that is one that we'll give a fuller response to, because there's quite a number of chunks to it that I think are worthwhile being very clear about in terms of how equiprove can support confidence by way of verification of information. That, I think, from me, Ali, is it. If you want to take over to close.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for jumping on tonight. We did run a little bit over, and as I said, if we'll have this recording up, and I'm hoping to see more questions come in that we can answer. Our phones are on, our emails are on, contact us. We'd love to speak with as many people individually or as groups as possible. And if you want to see the full prototype, there's a lot more. This was just a very small part of it. We'd happily like to talk with you further about you know, how we believe equiprove will actually modernize and unite this very fragmented industry. So thank you once again. Uli, do you want to say a quick thanks?
Yes, I'd like to say thank you too, and I'm really happy that I'm also part of this equiprove, and I really hope that we can pull it off because we need it. We are behind if we are compared to the rest of the world. Normally, Australia is quite advanced in taking up our technology, but in the equine industry, it's far behind, right? But this equiprove platform creates the base of thriving industry, where we have information which gives more confidence to overseas buyers. We have more this accurate data of horses. Hopefully, we will in years to come. We know much better how many horses we have and what they're doing, and the scope is endless. But we need your support, and we need you to get behind us and say, okay, you're doing the right thing, or if you think you're not doing the right thing, we are not doing the right thing, let us know and let us know why. But or if you have suggestions how to make things better or do things better as we at the moment plan, please let us know. Right? We need your input. We have run a workshop and we got a lot of information, and the current prototype is a result of that workshop and consultation we have done. So that's now all what we need is your support and money. So if somebody has a 3 million cash somewhere sitting loose, please let us know.
Thanks, everyone. I'll sign off now, and we all look forward to seeing you all at the next show.